Well,
Thank you.
thank you, Brooke.
Yeah, let me stop sharing so you can share.
Thank you, miss.
Yeah.
And let me grab it and we'll go. So, as Brooke said, I'd like to welcome everybody to today's webinar. First and foremost, I hope you're all very safe and everybody is doing well, okay? So what we're going to talk about today are dashboards, but what is more important than that is where we are in our evolution of JD Edwards, okay? JD Edwards, if any of you are out there and you're on release 9.0 that came out back in September, that one release back in between September of 2008 and March of 2012, Oracle implemented some mobile capability, some IoT, Internet of Things capability, collaboration between customers and vendors and things of that nature. They also developed Orchestrator, a rudimentary type of integration tool, and introduced the cloud. But as you can see, 9.2, when it came out in December of 2018, moved us into what we refer to as a supervised ERP system. That's where now there's robotic process automation, there's some artificial intelligence and language interaction with chatbots and things of that nature. There's some assisted decision making through Orchestrator and processing and data processing. And Oracle is moving forward now into this intelligent ERP solution where there's going to be a lot more capability inherent in JD Edwards. So I'm showing you this to let you know that if you're not on 9.2, you're really behind the curve, okay? You really need to get to 9.2 and you need to stay current. Because when we talk about dashboards, the traditional ERP system just gave us some rudimentary type of information. You know, how fast are we going? How far did we go? How much gas did we have? And that's it. And if you wanted to get additional information or drill into it, you can. But today, in JD Edwards today, Oracle recognizes that you have so much information coming at you, not only in JD Edwards, but with your other third-party systems, with your other integrations and things of that nature. And you need the ability to be able to look at information and get at what you need to get at right away so you could become more proactive versus reactive. You need to stay ahead of your competitors, and you need to keep gaining market share, especially in today's day and age. So if you think about it, how did people communicate? How did customers and vendors and people and all other people communicate? Well, way back in the day with hieroglyphics, it was in a cave. And unless you went to the cave and unless you saw the hieroglyphics, you were hoping somebody by word of mouth might tell you something. Well, all of a sudden, Gutenberg said, wait a minute, there's got to be a better way to get information to people, to get that critical thing that people need to the masses. And so we started mass producing information that we would then get out and share with people. But that was still not a real-time type of thing. Well, then computers came along and printers came along and the internet came along, and we were able to start sending information back and forth into a traditional ERP system, but we still had to print things out. We still had to look at paper. We still had to marry multiple pieces of paper together. Well, then what? Bill Gates said, wait a minute, that's still wrong. Let me create something where you could put data into a spreadsheet. You can have multiple spreadsheets. You can run some type of macro that combines information or does certain things, and maybe even create a pivot table so you can look at stuff. Now, believe it or not, a lot of people are still using this as the medium of choice for them to get information. But again, it's not real time. You have to extract it. You have to run jobs, all that other good stuff. You want, in JD Edwards, the ability to put the information in front of people the way they need to see it and allow them to drill down into the detail that makes that information up. So you want people to be able to get as much information as they need to do their job with the capability of getting at the raw data. So you have a lot to do. Everybody's busy. We can't afford to take information, rekey it, run a macro, do a bunch of other things. What we need to be able to do is achieve the potential that we all have and move ourselves up to that upper right quadrant where we are being the best we can be and performing at the highest level we can perform. And we do that by implementing dashboards within our system. So, is there a way to help you? Is there a way for you to get out from underneath all of that clutter and all of that other minutia that you don't need to see? Sure. And it's as easy as 1, 2, 3. It's so simple that even a baby can do it. And trust me, what I'm referring to is Tom. If Tom can do it, you can do it. So, what do we need to consider? We need to understand, do we have the people, the workforce, that is savvy enough to consume all this new technology, all these new tools, and savvy enough to put it together themselves so that they can get what they want? This includes your executives. Your executives should be able to create their own dashboards without going to somebody and saying, give me X, Y, and Z. We need to make sure that people are responsible for the creation of what they need to get at. Now, I know there's challenges, right? I know if you're in a department, an accounts payable department, and you might have X number of people working there, you might say to yourself, do I want all X people to be able to create their own stuff? Well, sometimes yes, sometimes no. And if it's no, then you have a person or a group of people that turn around and create what you feel is right for that department to function or for that role to function, and they're the ones that go ahead and do it. But again, having people create all these things is not an issue, a performance issue per se, okay? You know, naturally you want to not have somebody run open queries across all your data and your data's been there for 20 years. You know, there's other issues with that. You should archive, you should do a bunch of other things. We want to make sure that we promote a philosophy within the organization of self-sufficiency, learning, and continuous innovation, so that everybody within the organization is performing at their peak capacity for their job. And if everyone across the organization is doing that, then naturally the organization is going to do that. So how do we deliver this? Some people still want tangible physical pieces of paper. Some people might want to get an email with a link where they open up a link and the next thing you know, they see what they see. Some people may want to do it themselves. So we have to understand, even though we create a dashboard, how do we deliver that information? Should it be on demand? Should it be scheduled? And I'm going to show you a little later when we create one, the fact that everything you create, even though you open it up and it's, quote, now static, there's a refresh button so that if Tom is sitting there in front of his dashboard and I haven't done anything in 30 minutes, I can just refresh the data and see the most relevant data. Should we share this across the enterprise? The answer is yes, because JD Edwards is one single source of truth. It's an integrated software, right? Somebody does something in purchasing, they get a new item, goes into inventory, somebody sells it, it hits the books in finance. It's all integrated together. I'm not making another type of entry. Now, if you have an ancillary third-party system, hence you want to now have your integration be, quote, real-time and true. Hence, you may want to use Orchestrator, because not only can Orchestrator go out, get the data, move it in, it can send a notification to somebody saying it's done, can send a notification to somebody saying you need to act upon it. A lot of other things you can do. So ask yourself a question. Is your company all it can be? Are you doing everything you need to do to get the information you need to stay ahead of the curve? Now, the way Oracle accomplishes dashboards and accomplishes this is by utilizing changes in the tools of JD Edwards. Now, the tools, there's two components of JD Edwards, right? There's the application or the front end that the user sees that goes out and does a transaction, goes out and gets something, right? Or acts on something. And then there's the tools release that is that infrastructure component that helps the user personalize how they want to run their applications, how they want to see their applications across the various platforms and databases and things like that. Now, by enhancing these tools, your organization is getting a rapid time to value because your users can do this themselves. They don't need IT to turn around and develop a customization. In effect, you're lowering your cost of ownership because the software is doing it all for you. You don't need to invest in external things. It's providing you with that flexible configuration and personalization versus overall customization. Now, you want to scale your investment as your organization grows, and this allows you to do that. And it's the most popular choices for today's workforce. So UDOs are the key component when you create a dashboard. So when Tom creates a dashboard, Sally creates a dashboard, Phil creates a dashboard, what do we need? Well, I might want a query, and I might have a watch list, and I might have a Cafe One page, and I might have some springboards, and then I might have OneView reports or some other type of reporting tool, and I want to marry all that together. I want to use Orchestrator so that I can integrate different things. I want to use notifications so that if I create a new customer and I need a credit limit, I can send a notification off to the person that manages that, and they can go ahead and know that they have to do something. I want to create this one customized dashboard where I get what I need to get right away. Now, is there one right way to create a dashboard? No. There's many different ways. That's why JD Edwards is a configurable system. Not only is it configurable in how an application works, it's configurable as to how people want to see and act and process. So these tools releases, if you look just at 9.2, that release level that came out in 2018, look at all these enhancements that Oracle has been making. Now, you might be on application 9.2 and you may be on tools release 9.2.0.2. Well, if that's the case, you get very limited UDOs. They've been enhanced so much over the last several years that if you're not on the latest tools release as well, you're still not going to necessarily have the capabilities. So, when Tools Release 924 came out, it came out in November of 2019. And if we look at the migration of the tools releases and we hone in just on Orchestrator, which again, this is where Oracle is moving. Orchestrator is going to be their integration and mobility tool of choice. That's what they're going to use. You can see that in 2017, Orchestrator initially came out. 2018, there were two tools releases that affected Orchestrator. In 2019, there were 3. Now we are at tools 9245. So you can see that there has been at least 5 tools releases since 2019 that are enhancing your investment. You need to get current. You need to stay current. So what are we going to talk about? Some of you already know this, queries. It's a way for you to, instead of putting things in a QB line and deleting it and putting new values in, it's a way for you to create what data you want to see based on the parameters and save the query. So now with a click of a button, you can just get the information you want. Your grid formats, what's nice with those is now you can take a tab like, order entry or some other tabs or some other input forms where you have multiple tabs across the top. Now you can change it and consolidate the tabs so you don't have to keep clicking out to a different tab. You can have it all on one tab. You have your Cafe One View reports, the watch list, all these other things. Images, orchestrator, personal forms, right? You could turn around now and change the look and feel on your form. I love search groups. It's a way for you to turn around and actually look at data by typing in a keyword or a numeric value, getting back all of the data that matches that, and then being able to drill down and see additional information or drill into an application. You know, we talked about notifications. The important thing with UDOs is this. JD Edwards now, when they develop new ones and you take a tools release, all of these user-defined objects, you don't see them. They're locked down. So you need to make sure that you have access to them and that you can act upon them. Each one of these items you see is a separate UDO that you as a user need to be granted authority to. When it comes to Orchestrator, there's even embedded UDOs within Orchestrator. Each one of those are their separate thing. So even though, Tom, I can turn around and create an orchestrator, I may not be able to do a service request, or I may not even be able to do a whitelist. So you have to understand that you need authority. And Oracle isn't stopping. Form extensions. How many of you use user-defined fields for data or have a tag field or a tag table to store additional information? Now what you can do with a form extension is you could take that field that normally isn't exposed, and you could take that user reserve field and bring it onto a form. You could put it in the header. You could put it in the grid. So now all of these things you did to make your organization more efficient, but yet you had to customize a screen so you could see it, you no longer need this now. And now some of you might say, well, geez, I don't know how many of these I changed. I don't know how many customizations can go away because of this new UDO. We have a product, Genome, which can run over your customizations and tell you this customization could go away if you use a form extension. So now, again, you're enhancing value by getting rid of a customization and an unneeded thing IT needs to do. Again, Oracle's not stopping. Some things in 9243, some things that are in 9244. We are currently at tools release 9245. Tools 925 will probably come out before the end of the year. So again, life cycle, UDOs, they're delivered to everybody locked down. You need to have your administrator say, Tom, you can get at this UDO. You can get at a query. You can create the query. You can revise the query. You can share the query. You can delete the query. I have to be granted access to all of those things. And once your administrator sees and you promote the UDO to share, your administrator looks at it and says, yeah, okay, we can do that. He'll approve it or she'll approve it. And then what's going to end up happening is now it's available for whomever, the population, the role, whatever. So again, why are all of these things important? They're all important because when you look at your JD Edwards system, you have X number of applications you may deal with in a given day. Each one of those applications is going over a table of data. And that table of data has various pieces of information that you may need to see. And so you may have application 15 and application 10 that have information that you want to see together, but you can't because there's nothing there. There's no application in JD Edwards that marries that data together. Well, that's when you say to yourself, how can I do that? How can I get it information and see that information? Now, in the past, what ended up happening is if you join tables together, IT had to create a business view so that you can see that information. That's still true today. So when we create that business view, we're able to turn around and join pieces of data together. Now, I have this little chart up here to show you that the evolution of JD Edwards and your reporting capability and how it's moved from IT into the user community. And you see Universal Batch Engine at the bottom. That's your delivered dream writer for those of you that used to be in World. That's your, you click on it, you run it, the columns, the rows, they are what they are. You have data selection, maybe sequencing options, and that's it. And then as you move up the chart, you can see that one view reporting is the most robust, right? It's the one where you could join multiple tables together, multiple pieces of information together, and you can then turn around and slice and dice and see it the way you want to see it. So one view reporting, you can have multiple formats. You can have PDF, you can have a PowerPoint, you can have Word, you can have it come out as Excel, a lot of different ways that people can see the information. And how does it work? It turns around and it says, let me see the table that has this information. Let me have that business view that looks at that table and get that information. And one view runs over this view. So earlier I just said, if you have multiple tables that you want to join together, right? Think about it. Think about sales order entry. Sales order entry for multiple customers that are in the same demographic or share the same type of standard industry code or things like that. How would you get out of sales orders a report that says, show me everything I sold to my customers who are part of this kind of family? Or show me all the orders I had for items that are part of this family. You can't get that because those criteria are not part of order entry. However, if you have your IT group join those tables together and you create that business view over that table, now you can run a one view report over that. Now you can use form extensions or form personalizations or grid designs or queries, any other UDO over that table. So if you have a custom table, you can put it into a business view. Now you're going to be able to do everything I'm going to show you later on that quote unquote custom table. When we talk about one view report, again, runs over a table, be it a joined table or not. It has the report itself, and within each report, it has a component. So each one of those little gauges you see is a separate component, is a separate section on the report where you go in and say, this is what I want it to be. This is the x-axis, y-axis, these are the thresholds. You define every one of those little components. Now, if you don't want your IT group to go ahead and do that, you could turn around and you can buy some pre-built one-view reports. And again, if you look at it, for argument's sake, if you look at the financials, you can see that, the financials, you have 6 new reports, you have 6 new applications, i.e., that look over the business view and the data, 28 reports and 144 components. And all I'm going to say to you is, this is what's out there. You can buy any of these content that you see fit. Here's an example, right? Think about your account balance inquiry. Normally you have an account number, and that account number says, okay, for expenses, it's a one-line item. But what happens if I have multiple departments, right? I have warehouse departments, I have administrative departments, I have a bunch of other departments that belong to the cost center. They are cost centers, right? And within the cost center table, there's a category code that groups them together. Well, in standard JDE, you can't run a report like that. You'd have to have IT go ahead and generate one. But now when you join the table and you join it to the business unit table, now you can say, wait, give me an expense analysis, but give it to me by similar departments. So just a simple way to do it. And again, here's a listing of what they have for the financials, no big deal. The same thing for sales. Look at the top row, the very top row, open sales inquiry. It takes the sales order detail. It looks at the inventory item balance table. It turns around and looks at the customer master table. so that you can turn around now and you could run a report for an item family for this group of customers and all the orders. You can even run this report based upon your credit manager or collection manager or the person responsible for those groups of customers. And you can see they're manufacturing the same kind of thing. So one view reporting, does it have to be one view? No, it could be reports now. It could be any number of things. UX1, it takes one view, it takes your applications, it takes your queries, your UDOs, your watch list, all that stuff, and creates a landing page for you. Again, I'm going to walk you through how easy it is to create one. If your organization's too lean or you want to jumpstart something, you could turn around and buy some of these pre-built content as well. And you can see the different groups and roles that they go against. And you're going to see when I get into JD Edwards, our environment, our lab, you're going to see some of these tabs for pre-built content. So let me do this. Let me get out of here and let me go into Edwards and let's create one, okay? And Brooke, if you don't see my screen, then just yell and we can go from there, but I believe we should be okay.
Yep, I can see. It's perfect.
Thank you, Brooke. So I'm going to sign in now, right? And again, as I said, this is the most recent lab or the most recent tools release, 9245. Our people did it over the weekend, right? So we're still working out some of the bugs. But this is an example of a landing page, right? And this is a simple landing page. This is a landing page where I have some watch lists on the side, where I have my work center in the middle, where I have my orchestrator monitor here so I can see my orchestrators, how they're doing, and if they're, you know, moving forward or not. So before we get into all of this, what I want to do first is I'm just going to show you the application that I used to create my queries and my watch lists and things like that, right? So I used this customer service inquiry screen and I created multiple queries, right? I wanted to see my back orders. I wanted to see blanket orders that are out there because I want to see how many more orders I can release. I wanted to see how many quotes are still active, right? Because I want to follow up with that customer and say, hey, wait, I gave you this quote. What are we going to do? Do you want me to convert the quote or not? And so, you know, I created these queries and you can see them, you know, they'll launch and they'll bring up the data they need to be. I also went in and for each one of those queries, I created their corresponding watch list. And for their corresponding watch list, I turned around and I said, okay, what is going to be my threshold and what's going to be my critical number that I want to get? So I went through and I did all these earlier because now when I go and I create my composed page, I want to be able to show you how we can use those things, okay? So I'm going to go in here and again, you may try to do this in your environment. You might say, hey, Tom, I'm on 9.2 and I have tools release 9.2.4, whatever. But yet I don't see it. Well, if you don't see it, that's because your administrator has not given it to you. You have not been granted the access. So what I want to do is I want to come down where it says manage content, and I'm going to click on compose page because that's what I want to create to make my dashboard, okay? So now when I'm in here, I'm going to turn around and I'm going to get rid of this, right? Because it thinks I want to modify the one I was on. I don't. I want to start and create a brand new one from scratch. So I'm simply going to change it and say, create a new one. Now, when I go in to create one, I'm going to be able to do many things. I can add a designer page. I can add a one view report. I can enter applications. You know, I can do watch list springboards. I could even do a menu. So let's start by simply saying, let me add my watch list. So when I come in here, I'm going to give it a name, Tom, right? And again, you would want to call it something that makes meaningful sense to you. because later when you see it out on the actual grid, it's going to have a title, right? So my description that I want to see. Now, I want to pick and choose what I want, so it's going to be empty. So when I say okay, it comes up and it says, tell me the watch list you want. Okay, so the first one I want is I want my blanket orders. The next one I want is I want my credit orders. Then I want my quotes. And last but not least, maybe I'll have my back orders. All right. So those are the 4 watch lists I want to see. Now, what do I want to do? Now I want to create, let's say, a springboard. So I can come down here and I have to drag and drop my springboard to where I want it to show up. Now, you notice when I clicked on it, I dragged it and put it at the bottom. So I'm going to say Tom's springboard. That's my description. Again, you know, I know the one I want, but if you didn't know the one you want, you could turn around and you can search for it. They'll bring up the little pop-up window, right? I know which one I want, so I'm simply going to type it in. If I can see which one I wrote down. Oh, hang on one second. When you get old, you need glasses. I'm going to say okay. And there's my springboard. Now what I want to do is I want to add, maybe I have a menu I created for myself, and I want to add this menu. So I'm going to grab the menu. Maybe the menu I'm going to plop right over here. Again, the same thing. Give it a meaningful name. Now I can use a task folder, or I can store things in my favorites. Well, I'm going to use a task folder. A task folder is when you create a menu option and you group a bunch of menu options together, you put them in a task folder. So I want to see this task folder. It has to do with financials. It has to do with general accounting. So I'm going to plop that in there. And now notice my folder lets me do journal entries, account ledger updates, lets me do, you know, print by document or legal number, account balance update. I'm going to add an application. And the application I'm going to add, and this is the hardest part of this whole thing. And again, I'll show you when I'm done, an easier way just to put it all together. Is just sliding everything around. So I'm going to grab an application, and again, I know what it is. And this application I'm using right now, remember I talked to you about the content, the UX1 content and or the OneView content? Well, I'm grabbing some of that pre-built content, okay? So I'm going to add it, and this is what it's going to look like. Then what I'm going to add is my work center. I want to be able to see notifications. I want to be able to see when my reports are done. I want to be able to see anything that I subscribe to as a notification. So again, now I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to put that over here as well. And again, I know it's going to be skinny to start, but don't get nervous because I'll make it better. I'll make it bigger. So now when it comes up, I know that application. All right, I'm simply going to say okay. And when it's done, you'll see my little work center over here, hopefully. My message center. And I'm going to add one more application, all right? And again, I could have added a one view report. I could have done a lot of things, but I'm going to add one more application right here. Now, I gotta learn how to type. All right. Make sure I grab the right form. I'm going to say OK. So this is the information I want to see. I want to be able to look at watch lists. I want to be able to see my work center. I want to be able to see a couple of reports and things of that nature. So now what I could do is I could start making all these things look nice. I can, turn around and drag this little bar, so things get a little bigger, a little smaller. Same thing here. I can grab this bar, come over here, make these about the same size, and do this. All right. I look at it. I'm saying to myself, yeah, I'm happy. This looks like what I want to do. So I'm going to come up here where UDOs are. I'm going to click Save. It's going to pop up and it's going to say, okay, give me a name. I'm going to give it Tom Dashboard. I'm going to say, okay. It's going to save it. When it's done saving, you'll see I'll get all the other icons highlighted so that I can publish it, so I can share it with other people. If I don't like it, I can delete it. If I'm all said and done, I can exit out of this. And what I've just done now is I've just created, when I exit, my dashboard. And if I look at this, I can now start to act on what I need to act on. And what's nice is that anything I need to do, I can refresh it. I can turn around and, launch the application, launch the back orders, right? Tells me how many based on my thresholds that I put in there. If I turn around and say, hey, I want to, go back out and I want to look at account ledger, by object account, I could turn around and I can click on that. It'll launch the application. I can do what I need to do when I exit out of the application and back to my dashboard. So again, not very difficult, right? Not very hard to do. I can do the same thing, right? My springboard here has a lot of different options. Now, some of these are a little tiny. You say to yourself, well, Tom, wait a minute, this report's hard to read. I can turn around and I could pop it out. And so now I can look, I can hover, I can get information, I can click on something and drill into it. When I'm all done, I can pop it back in. If you don't want it, I can turn around and I can say, well, wait a minute, my springboard, let me just put it off to the side. My watch list, let me just put it off to the side. So now what the system does is it makes everything else bigger, okay? Very, very easy thing to do. I can look at my work center, my notifications, right? Act on my notifications, all that other good stuff. Took us what, 10 minutes? So that's how easy it is. What I'd like to show you now is, if I could remember which one it is. Oh, no, it's this one. There you go. What I want to say to you is this. You need to understand that even though your organization says you're code current, that does not mean that you're being a continuous innovation company. Just because you're on tools 9244 doesn't really mean anything to you unless you take and adopt the changes. So if you want to be a continuous innovation organization, you need to take the continuous delivery of the changes, but you need to adopt those changes. You need to evaluate them. You need to say, hey, what should we put in? What should we not put in? You turn around and you use the PY environment and you let everybody go nuts. And then all of a sudden you say, hey, this makes the most sense. Let's promote it to production. You follow your proper change management, but you need to adopt the change. So take the delivery. The vendor delivers every quarter new tools and functionality and things of that nature. They're doing it all the time regardless. You need to continuously adopt. Now, that doesn't mean that you need to follow suit with Oracle. That doesn't mean if Oracle comes out with a new tools release, you have to do it that month. No, but you need to ensure you don't get 2, 3, 4 years behind again, all right? Because the longer you wait, the harder it's going to be, and it's going to take you more time and effort. So increase your value of Edwards. Continuous innovation, continuous engagement, make Edwards better. Identify, evaluate, and implement so that you can adapt to your changing markets, you can succeed quickly, and you have that shorter return on investment. So the choice is yours. Weigh your options, but time is running out, right? And the longer you wait, the more money it can cost you. So you want to make sure that you're constantly moving forward. You want JD Edwards to become a market share expansion machine. You want to be able to grow your people, to get them to the best they can be. You want to have your processes be as streamlined and efficient and as possible and as proactive as possible. And you want your technology to always be the most recent technology. That is going to give you your business value, continuous adoption. So stay current. The benefits are there. You get a focused IT cost. You get better visibility and improved reporting and planning. You minimize customization and the need to involve IT in doing all of that. You're improving your efficiency. Better yet, you're improving your customer service. You're taking advantage of security and quality of the software, and you're improving the collaboration, not only internally in your organization with a single source of truth, but you're improving that collaboration and workflow to your vendors and your customers. With Orchestrator and REST services, you can get real-time ordering, real-time information back and forth. So I just scratched the surface of what you can do. With UX1, with the UDOs, you need to understand what are your capabilities. And for those of you that are part of this webinar today, if you sign up, we'll discount the training off 50%. You can see that the training is typically anywhere from 6 to 8 hours, right? Up to 10 students. And what we'll do is we will work with you to understand what do you want to take advantage of? What do you want to create? Do you want to create a couple of UDO pages? Do you want to create, some watch lists or some other things? And we will work with you so you get all that done and you don't have to worry about it. So with that, I'm going to turn it back to the lovely Brooke Bacon. All right. So Brooke, I'm going to stop sharing. All right.
Thank you, Tom. Awesome.
Thank you, Miss.
That was great.
Questions and answers. We do have several questions that came in. And again, if you still want to ask a question, by all means, just type it in. The first question is, do we still need to have IT join tables together? So I'm going to say maybe, maybe not, because again, the example I gave before is, let's say my customer service screen, right? I'm entering a sales order. And let's say when I entered that sales order, it has user-defined fields in that table. And maybe that user-defined field, we as an organization defined a value for that. And that's what I put in there, okay? And I put some values in there, but I don't necessarily see that, or I don't necessarily get that back. Well, with a form extension now, because it's part of that table, I can go in and grab it and I can expose it onto the actual existing application and see it. However, when I showed you the OneView reports and I said, hey, how I join that customer service sales order table to my item balance table to my customer master table, in that respect, yes, you're going to need IT to join those tables together for you and create a view over all of that. Then once they do that though, you have complete control as to what fields you see in the grid, what fields you see in the header. You can use all these UDOs in the tools, the form extension, grid formats, etc., to now take that business view and make it personal to you. So a long-winded answer, yes and no, okay? Now the next question that came up, I appreciate because it helps me explain something else to you that I did not say and that I should have said. So the question is, do I have a step-by-step instruction book as to what I'm presenting or something similar to that? So it would be nice for users to go ahead and be able to do all these things. The answer is we have workshops that we run not only for UDOs, but also for Orchestrator. And these workshops are 4 hours long. They're hands-on, where users actually get in. We have a book with exercises that we go through, and the users, you, go through those exercises one by one. Now, these workshops, unfortunately, that collateral you do not get to keep. However, when I showed you at the end of the presentation, the fact that you can have a UX1 training session for half price, those training sessions, you do get collateral that you can keep. So, you know, as I said earlier, assuming Tom wants to have one of these UX1 sessions and I come up and I say, hey, GSI, I want to be able to build over these X number of tables or pieces of data. I want to be able to build queries and watch lists. I want to create a one-view report, and I want to put it all on a compose page, or better yet, I even want a Cafe one page where I link to my third-party system and pull it all together. We can work with you and help train you on those kinds of things. Orchestrator, the same thing. We offer a training session there where it's the same thing. You tell us, oh, geez, I'd like have an orchestrator for X, Y, and Z. And in effect, we walk you through how to create those so that it's like a train the trainer type of thing where you can move forward now and you can start doing these things on your own. So a lot of different vehicles. The last thing I'll tell you is this. For those of you that are on this and all of a sudden you say, oh, geez, you know, Phil would love to see this, or he needs to understand the capability and he needs to be able to do X, Y, and Z, we need to get him involved in this. If you reach out to us, we'll be more than happy to do a one-off for your organization. I'd be more than happy to sit down one day and you have 15 people in your organization going through this Zoom meeting, and I walk through the same thing so that we can communicate this to more people in your organization to even help build the business case for you to get there. And if you're not on the latest tools, if you're not on 9.2 applications, trust me, get somebody to build you the business case, because that's the way you need to go. You need to start moving forward. Okay? So for any of you that want that, you know how to get a hold of us, and we'll be more than happy to do that for you. Right now, Brooke, I don't see any more questions. I want to thank everybody once again. You know, you guys and girls, I apologize. The both of you are trendsetters, because Tom and Brooke will attest to this. This is the first time Tom has ever shown his face during a presentation.
Same here, Tom.
You're welcome. So you can see that I'm in outer space, but you people have forced Tom to finally show his face during a presentation. So thank you once again, Brooke. Thank you as always, Brooke.
Yeah, thank
All
you,
right.
Tom. That was great. We want to thank all of you for your questions and attending our presentation today. And thank you, Tom, for your great presentation. Just as a follow-up, we ask that you complete a short 1-minute survey when you exit. And there will be a drawing for a $25 Amazon gift card for anybody that attended the entire webcast. And you will be getting an email with a link to our YouTube channel as well as our resource center so that you can access a copy from Tom's presentation today, as well as a recording of the webcast out on YouTube. So again, thank you, everybody, and we hope that you have a great day.
Okay. Thanks, everybody. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brooke. Bye-bye.
Bye.